Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Today we're going to show you some delicious pork belly tacos with watermelon. So let's get started. People often ask me, what is pork belly? Believe it or not, it is actually bacon. It's bacon before it's been sliced. This is a piece of pork belly I have in front of me. You'll notice that most of the meat is on top. We've got a layer of fat on the bottom. I'm not going to trim that fat off. Fat is actually very important because you want it to render in the pan itself, but you also want it to be as part of the flavor profile. What I have here is about a tablespoon of 5-spice powder. This is a Chinese powder. You can pick this up in the grocery store. We're going to sprinkle that onto the pork belly all over. And we're going to add a little salt to it as well. We're just going to dry rub it. And then we're going to let it sit for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to sear it off in the pan and then put it in the oven for 2.5 hours. All right, so our pork belly has dry rubbed with 5-spice powder and salt, and it sat for about 20 minutes. Now we're going to sear it off in a hot pan. We're going to turn this on. Whatever fat you want to use is fine. I wouldn't do a lot because we are going to render fat from the pork belly itself, so I'm just going to squeeze in some olive oil there. We'll go ahead and make our sauce. We've got some beef broth here we're going to add to our dish. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of a soy sauce. I'm using a tamari here. Tamari happens to be gluten-free. You don't have to do tamari. You can certainly use regular soy sauce. I would recommend maybe the less sodium type of soy sauce, but we're using a tamari there. We're actually going to do some chopped ginger or grated ginger. And I like to add a little bit of a star anise. This is a spice. It is actually dry, but it adds a lot of flavor. They look like little stars. So we're going to drop in 2 of those. Going to whisk that up again. And now our pan is ready for our pork, so we're going to come over. I like to start with the fat side down because it's going to sear it pretty quickly. So you want probably about a medium to medium high heat on this. I'm looking at that. I think it's pretty good. And we're going to let that go until it's brown on all sides. All right, so our pork belly has seared nice and brown on all sides. Time to put it in our dish with our sauce that we made. I'm actually putting that meat side down so that nice sauce and marinade penetrates that pretty well. We're going to cover our dish with foil, and it's going to go into the oven for 2.5 hours. All right, so our pork belly has braised in the oven for 2.5 hours, and then we let it cool in that same sauce liquid for an hour, and then we took it out of the liquid and put it in the refrigerator for yet another hour. I know it's an in-depth process, but it's well worth the flavor profiles. One of the reasons you want to let it dry out in the refrigerator is you want that you want it to be somewhat dry when we go to sear it off for our tacos. So we've got our done pork belly here. The fat side is on the top. I've got a burner warming up here. Now, before we go any further, I also want to mention that that sauce that we had the pork in, we are going to reduce it down, and we are going to create a nice little glaze or a sauce to go over top of our tacos. So while this is warming up, we're going to put a little olive oil in our pan. And I'm going to cut the pork belly into squares. This is basically for serving pieces. You could shred this if you wanted to. I personally like the presentation that I'm going to create for you, but I'll leave that up to you and your culinary talents, we'll say. Now we're going to sear off a few squares of the pork belly. While that's searing off, we're going to go ahead and dice some watermelon. Now the key here for the presentation is that you want your pieces of watermelon to be about the same size as your pieces of pork belly. And we want to cut a lime to have ready to squeeze over top of it. The sauce is looking beautiful. It's getting thick. All we're doing at this point is searing it off and giving it a nice little crusty exterior. And one of the things I like to talk to people about is when they thicken sauces. I love this little trick. If you take your whisk or your spoon and you look at it and you want to know, oh gosh, is that thick? If you take your whisk out and actually run your fingertips on it and rub it between your finger and your thumb, you should feel a certain viscosity there, almost oily to a certain extent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put our pork belly on our tortillas. And now we're going to take our watermelon and we're going to put it over top. Make a nice little geometric presentation there. And now we're going to come back with that sauce we've created. Oh, it smells so good. I just want to drizzle that right over the top. So we can come back and now squeeze that lime right over the top. Oh, wow, beautiful. And there you have it, pork belly watermelon tacos. I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.